Welcome, college hoop fans. We're talking about Saturday college football. I know you guys just watched Wednesday's college stuff, Thursday's college hoop stuff. Now let's talk about Saturday. And I want to really stress about it. I know we're talking about college hoop Saturday, but I really want to stress this to you guys that's watching right now. College Saturday is crazy. You have NFL wildcard games. You have UFC finally coming back to the Octagon, NBA, NHL. College basketball right now is where you make your money. Odds makers are going to be looking at the NFL games, looking at UFC money coming in, looking at the ESPN, ABC, NBA game that's on the board. This is when you can find some gems in the Sun Belt, the lower conferences in college basketball where to make your money. Because right now, the odds makers are looking at the NFL playoffs. So highly recommend looking at the board on college hoops on Saturday because I think the odds makers – I know, because I used to sleep on college basketball when I was behind the counters because I was so busy concentrating on NFL with the big bets coming in. So don't forget to check out all those smaller conferences. I really wanted to stress that out before we dive into some great games. We're going to dive into 4. We had 5, but some teams had a wet nose and had to pull out. So we're only going to talk about 4 teams. Let's get going with the first one, Robert. Tennessee, Kentucky. What was it? 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Should be a fantastic game. Can Kentucky, Big Blue Nation, roll at home against the Vols?
All right, I have this number at right around 4.5. You touched on it. We got 2 top 25 teams. Early tip-off. You know, Rupp Arena is going to be loud and rowdy.
Crazy.
But I don't really trust either one of these teams right now. This is probably going to be a stay-away game for me, unless I see a spike in the number. I know it sounds weird, but if that Kentucky number starts creeping up, as in their sharp number coming in on the Wildcats, I may jump on them and look for the blowout. But these are 2 teams that are extraordinarily talented, but just not trustworthy. Rick Barnes is one of the worst in-game coaches in college basketball with the Tennessee Vols. Kentucky, this is not the same caliber of Kentucky team that we've seen. I know they're ranked in the top 15. I know people want to talk about them as a potential national title contender, but they're not there. They're relying on a lot of transfers rather than those blue chip, future top 10 NBA recruits that we've seen John Calipari deal with in the past. So they're just kind of skating by more on reputation right now, I think. So again, I don't really like this game per se. It's going to be great to watch. It's going to be a fun watch. But for me, it's Kentucky or nothing.
Yeah, I agree. If I can get anything around 5 points or less, then I might take a look at Big Blue Nation. Just because of the way Tennessee has struggled. They struggled on the road against LSU, Alabama. I guess that loss against Texas Tech doesn't look like a bad loss now of Texas Tech beating Baylor early in the week. So that does look like a bad loss. But they also lose to one of your favorite teams, Nova, in the beginning of the year as well. So again, I think it's Big Blue Nation for me again. But you have to make sure you get that right number. I wish this was a late afternoon game because I really want to see how the line movement could have gone if this was like maybe a 5:30 game or something like that. Because maybe if I can get Tennessee for just a wild punch, a wild line, I might have to take a look at the Vols. But it's an early game, so I guess there's no value, Big Blue Nation or bust for me on this one. Here's another thing, West Virginia at Kansas. I had West Virginia early in the week at home. They cashed me a nice ticket. The wife got to shop a little bit more on Amazon this week because of that ticket. So hopefully we have another great matchup. West Virginia at Kansas on this one. And there's another one. Early game, 1:30. I guess they don't want to battle the almighty NFL. 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. What do you think about this matchup?
I think this is a great matchup. I think I also cashed with West Virginia earlier in the week in that game against Oklahoma State. I was really surprised at how low that number was, and it tells me that the odds makers really aren't giving West Virginia the respect that they deserve. I know that, Bob Huggins doesn't have a lot of the high-end talents that he usually has in West Virginia. They're unranked right now, but Huggy Bear's been doing it for a long time. You know what you're going to get out of West Virginia. They're going to press. They're going to play fantastic defense. They're going to hit the offensive glass. They're going to turn the game into a slog. I feel like West Virginia's games at Kansas always follow the same pattern. West Virginia runs out to an early lead in the first half. They'll be up like 8 or 9 points, and you're thinking, okay, is this the time that they upset Kansas at home? Then all of a sudden, the Kansas avalanche comes, and they just run West Virginia out of the building. In the last 3 meetings in Fog Allen, Kansas has won by 14, by 7, and by 25 points. Okay. Now, that said, I think that the spread is going to come in with West Virginia probably around a 12-point favorite. Kansas, the books always overcorrect for Kansas at home because they are one of the best home teams in college basketball. They do have one of the best, most legitimate home court advantages in college basketball. And as I mentioned, 2 of the last 3 meetings have been blowouts. So I think we're going to see West Virginia around a 12.5-point favorite in this game. Something to consider, though, is that in the last 6 meetings in Kansas, West Virginia has lost by fewer than 10 points in 4 of them. So 2 of them, the 14-point game and the 25-point game, were blowouts. Kansas can do that to teams. We see that all the time. However, West Virginia has played tight in this series. So if that line gets up around that 12.5, for me, maybe leaning on the Mountaineers.
Yeah, I wish I could say I'm jumping on the Mountaineers with that big cash early in the week against Oklahoma State. But boy, that game against Texas on the road is something why I'm just going to either put a big X on this one because they looked really bad, losing by double digits. So if they play like that, then Kansas rolls on this one. But if I can get more than, let's say, 14, 15, or 16 against the Mountaineers, I might take a shot at West Virginia. But it's either West Virginia, great number, or pass for me, just because I just don't know how we're going to get. That was a big win against Oklahoma State. So what's their mindset going to go in there, knowing that their last road game, they got shellacked by Texas. So, again, I'm looking at West Virginia, but I need a really, really good number for me to pull the trigger on the Mountaineers for this matchup. But it should be a great game. But, again, another 1:30 CBS game. So it should be a fantastic, fantastic watch early in the afternoon while everyone else is getting ready for the almighty NFL to join into that one. But let's get into the other one. Here we go. Oklahoma State. We were just talking about Oklahoma State as West Virginia beat them early in the week against Baylor, who are coming off a win against Texas Tech. Texas Tech has had some really good wins. If you kind of look back, if you look at their schedule, they're a fantastic team to watch. But why will Baylor bounce back against that loss against Texas Tech at home? I think that's probably the biggest factor, that Baylor lost at home to the Red Riders. So what do you think? How is Baylor going to bounce back on this one?
I wouldn't want to play the Bears in this game. Oklahoma State, it's always very tricky how you handle the number 1 team in the country. Okay. The books are going to pump the lines up on them. The public doesn't care. The square money is going to come in on them because, they're the number 1 team. They're just going to run people out of the gym. And some number 1 teams, especially, we've seen Baylor do that this year. So it was really surprising to see them lose that game to Texas Tech, especially because they had the game in hand early on. They were up 8-9 points early in the first half in that game. And I thought they were going to, blow Texas Tech out of the gym. I do think that they're going to blow Oklahoma State out of the gym. I think that they are going to be in big time bounce back mode here. Oklahoma State, this is their 3rd straight road game. You touched on it. They had to go to Texas Tech. They had to go to Morgantown to play West Virginia. This is not a very good road team. Oklahoma State last year was one of the best bets in college basketball. They were ATS darlings last year. You take Cade Cunningham, top 5 pick, you take him off that roster. I still expected Oklahoma State to be very, very competitive. They really have been shaky. They're 5-8 against the spread this year, so I just haven't seen it from guys like Isaac Likely, who was a really good player 2 years ago before Cunningham came. I expected him to kind of pick up the slack that Cunningham left. He really hasn't been able to do that. I wouldn't mess with Baylor. I think that this line is going to be high, but high for a reason. I see it being around a 14-point spread, maybe 14.5. But for me, I'm not taking the points in this one. I wouldn't mess with the Bears.
No, me either. I think it's good. I would not be shocked to open up 16 just because not consecutive road games that Oklahoma State has played in this one, and Baylor coming off that loss. So I would not be shocked if we see 15 or 16 as openers in this one, because I think the betting public is going to see that. They're going to say, they want some revenge on this one. Number 1 team goes down. But here's another team that went down on the same day. We're going to go to my part of town, the West Coast, West Side. We're going to go to Pac-12 between Oregon and USC. The Chaser game. If you've been losing in the NFL all day Saturday or college hoops on Saturday, here's one of the Chaser games, unless you want to bet Hawaii, who's the last game on the Saturday board. But Oregon goes to Trojan Town, who are coming off a bad loss that was rescheduled not once but twice against the Trees of Stanford. What do you think? Oregon visits USC. Who do you think of in this matchup?
Okay, what I think is this game is 100% going to be a rated play for me on Saturday. I'm also going to use it as a free play in a minute. But I love this game. I love it. Okay. I think Oregon has to play at UCLA on Thursday. All right. We are recording this on Wednesday. So the outcome of that game is going to impact the number on this one. I hope Oregon gets blown out by UCLA on Thursday, because then this line will come in where I think it's going to, with Oregon around a 9.5 point underdog at USC. Look, I think USC is one of the most overrated teams in the country. There is absolutely no way in hell that this is one of the 5 best teams in the country. They just aren't. They haven't played anybody. They haven't beat anybody. They're not a bad team. Like, I'm not a USC hater, but they are nowhere near a top 5 team. And we saw that when they went into Stanford and lost to a not at all good Stanford team. USC has played that cupcake schedule. They're a great defensive team. Only 2 teams have shot over 40% against the Trojans this year. But when you look at the caliber of teams that they've been going up against, that's not really a surprise. Now, Oregon has underachieved this year. This is not a typical Oregon team in terms of the results, but it is a typical Oregon team in terms of how it has been comprised. Dana Altman, he's been hitting the transfer market before it was cool to hit the transfer market, okay? He's made his career with teams like this by finding ways to get guys to coalesce and build that chemistry as the season moves on. It's just about Dana Altman time. Now that we're into Pac-12 team, I can see this Oregon team getting hot because they have talent on that team. They just haven't been able to put it together. Now, they were completely unconvincing in their win against Oregon State on Monday, right? But that was still a rivalry game on the road against an Oregon State team that, it was their Super Bowl. With as poorly as they have been playing, they went all out in that game, and Oregon was able to find a way to win. They didn't cover, but fine. So if Oregon doesn't cover in that game, if they don't cover and lose to UCLA, then I feel like we are going to be set up perfectly for them to not only go into USC and cover an inflated spread, I think they could win this game. I 100% think that Oregon could win this game. I love the Ducks here.
Yeah, the Ducks have really turned a corner because we bashed them. I think the first show we did in college basketball when they were struggling early off the gate, but they've totally turned their season around, getting really good bench play, playing some good team defense, and I like the adjustments they do at halftime every game they've played. I think that's why I think the Ducks could be a nice play. But again, it's all about what happens early in the week before we look at that number that's going to come out on Saturday. All right, it's free play time on Saturday. I know these games are some outcomes could be different because some of these games are playing earlier in this week. But my free play is grab a bag of chips, make sure it's potato chips, because I'm going for Idaho and Idaho State over this total just because Idaho, I can probably find 4 guys that put up 90 plus against their defense. They gave up 96 points to Eastern Washington, 92 points to Montana State. I think we're going to see a lot of points going to this one. If it's anywhere in the low 150s or in the high 140s, I'm probably going to take a shot at the over because I think defense will be hard to find. And if you're Idaho State, who sometimes struggles on offense, you're probably doing bat flicks that you get to place the Vandals and try to shorten up that offense and maybe shorten up that bench. So this one goes over. Grab a bag of chips. Idaho State over.
All right, I already told you what my free play is going to be. I'm taking Oregon. I'm sure I'm screwing myself on this one because I'm telling all you guys out there that are watching this video, you guys are all going to go bet it. You're going to push the number down. That number's going to creep down towards like 7.5, 8.5, because the money's going to come in on the Ducks. But I really do think that Oregon is going to come to play in this game. I really do think that USC is very overrated right now. I think this number is going to be way too high. You're talking about getting up near double digits, and there is just not that level of talent disparity between these two teams. I think Oregon needs this game a little bit more. So I may bet Oregon small against UCLA, hoping that they don't cover, hoping, kind of a string bet for you poker players out there, hoping that they don't cover against UCLA. So I will get more points in this USC game. Then I will come over the top and go big on Oregon on Saturday at 11 o'clock.
Now, don't forget, this is a late game, boys and girls. It's 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if you like Oregon, like with Robert, that number could probably be beneficial for you if you wait for it to see what kind of line movement. Because, again, Bettors will be chasing all day Saturday with all the NFL games going on, more college hoops. So make sure you get the best number on all of our plays, not just because we're telling you who we like, but make sure you get the best number that's out there. But there you go. There's Saturday's college hoops handicap extravaganza. I am Raphael Esparza. That is Robert Ferringo. I hope you guys have a fantastic, fantastic weekend. Don't forget to click that link up there, get that free $60. Choose anybody you want. You don't have to choose us two ugly heads. We have plenty of handicappers that are red hot on the site. Make sure you pick one of those and cash today. You guys all have a fantastic weekend. I'm Raphael. That's Robert. Have a great, great college hoop week.